We really had a tail 2 weeks. Like last week I stood here and talked about us going 5-1, and we were playing pretty well, especially when it's some close games in walk-off fashion. And then this week we go 1-5. We go down to C of O on Tuesday, and it was one of those deals where they were very inspired because we had to cancel our setup here, and they felt like it was an unjustified cancellation because we were in the midst of a 6-game conference week. It was snowing the entire day, so I'm not sure how well that would have really worked. But they didn't feel like it was really justified, and they were upset at it. And they came out Tuesday and they showed how disappointed they were in that situation. We were in the midst of a conference week as well, so I threw my 2 best bullpen arms. They ran their 1 and 2 back on short rest, and we came out and played like, why are we here on a Tuesday? The first game, we had some base runners, didn't push the base runners across to runs when we should have, and I believe it was a 4-0 loss in game number 1. We kind of challenged our hitters, said, hey, you get smacked in the mouth, you got to smack somebody else in the mouth. You can't just take it and accept your beating. So we decided to step out, and we scored 3 runs in inning number 1, and we're like, all right, here we go. And then our starter proceeded to give up 4 runs. And at that point, we went back to we smacked somebody in the mouth, but when we got smacked in the mouth, we just kind of shut it down again for the rest of the day. So we took our tail whippings on Tuesday and came back, and guys said, Coach, where are we stopping for dinner? I said, Calf's still open, we're hitting. I said, you play like that, you eat at the Calf, I'm not buying you dinner. So that sent a message. Wednesday, we came out to practice. We talked to our hitters and addressed some things that we needed to get taken care of, because at that point we were hitting about 265 as a team. Pitchers were top 3 in every statistical category in the conference. Hitters were in the bottom 2 in every statistical category in the conference. So we adjusted some things Wednesday, Thursday, going into Avila. When we went up to Avila, if you've never been up there, there's a number of years ago, they just made this, quarter of an acre turf patch on their campus, and they do everything there. So you see all of their athletes walking around with the exact same T-shirt. They've got it on the scoreboard, Protect the Z. I'm not sure what the Z stands for, but it's Protect the Z. And it's all about owning that little piece of turf heaven for them. Their softball field's a part of that, their baseball field, their football field, their soccer field, everything. So you've got lines out in the middle of their center field. It's a great setup. Their press box is in between the baseball, softball field, so they've got a guy hanging out the window watching the baseball game so he can keep track of stuff. But it's a tough place to play, it really is. And the way their dugouts are set up is their dugout is almost like a cave in itself. It's built into the hillside. And people are literally just sitting right on top of their dugout practically. Their students come out of the dorms. They totally encompass that. And when they get going, they get very emotional, and the crowd gets with them. So Friday, we come out and we get a 3-0 lead. Then they have a guy hit a solo home run, gives them a little bit of a spark. They get some energy. I've got Derek Kennel, who you've heard me say has been throwing phenomenal for us. He's on the mound, and he's just cruising, and it doesn't bother him. Well, then we get into the 4th inning, and all of a sudden something got under his skin, because he proceeded to rack up as many walks in that 1 inning as he had in the entire conference schedule up to this point. I believe he walked 6 batters, gave up 5 runs in that inning, and then we go to our bullpen that was a little short because we'd thrown them against C of O earlier in the week, and we were banking on Kendall to do his work and throw us 7 strong. And we battled, and ended up being a 10-7 ball game. We had a chance in the last inning with bases loaded, 1 out, and we only we didn't manage to get any runs across right there to close the gap in the 7th. In game number 2, I've got my top bullpen arm that has now entered the rotation for the last 3 weeks, and kind of curious as to what we're going to see out of him after seeing how well their hitters do at piecing hits together. And he proceeds to throw us an absolute gem. We're in a 2-2 ball game in the 7th. And I stick with him because he's thrown at that point like 76 pitches, and he's just now finding his breaking ball well. And they proceed to get a walk, work a walk on about a 12 pitch at bat. Then they bunt him over, and then their shortstop hits a ball to the left center gap, opposite field, drives in that run. And thankfully, he did me a favor, because as soon as he hit the ball, he tossed his bat about 50 feet up into the air. And honestly, I mean, it's not the probably nicest thing for me to think, but I'm like, I really hope that lands on his head. You know, I mean, that was my competitive nature coming out, and it almost did. I mean, it landed about 2 foot beside him on his way to first base, and then he tosses his helmet about another 50 feet in the air and does a back dive as they're tackling him, and it got Dustin Eby fired up. Who I mentioned Dustin Eby in his week last week. What I didn't have the chance to mention because it hadn't been announced yet, he did receive Pitcher of the Week in our conference for his efforts last week, putting together 2 outings. So there was a conversation that never happened, and Dustin was ready to take the mound, and he was ready to address all the injustices of a shortstop. And then, just as it happens, game never presented that opportunity. Guy led off 2 of his first 2 at-bats. In his third at-bat, he was hitting number 2 in the 7th inning, and at that point we had a 4-2 lead, and Dustin used his intelligence, baseball savvy, and he got the kid out, and we moved on from there, and we won the game with Dustin on the mound. And he did a quality job for us in getting that win and getting that recovery. In game number 4, it's one of those deals where Avila hasn't really had a good 4-starter. We're using Josh Locknett, who again is a bullpen arm, because I've got 2 starters right now that are down with injuries. And we score 3 runs in the first inning, and we're all over their starter. And we've shut their dugout up now. And we're like, okay, now we're playing on an even playing field. Well, Locknett ends up giving up 7 runs before I can get him out, get a reliever hot and get him out of there. We're down at one point 10-3, and we kind of look like that smacked in the mouth, we're done, we're not going to respond well. And then all of a sudden we have a 6-run 6th inning, and we're back to 10-9. And guys fought back really, really well. They ended up scoring an insurance run in the bottom of the 6th, 11-9, we go into the 7th. We score another one, get it to 11-10, had guys at 2nd and 3rd with 2 outs and number 3 hole looking for a big hit, and he hits a line drive right back up the middle. Unfortunately, it hit the pitcher's kneecap and deflected towards first base, so the first baseman was able to run over, pick it up, and dive back to the bag to beat our 3 hole to the base and save that run from scoring. So they won 11-10, so we ended up getting 2 one-run losses up at Avila. And, again, I told the guys, I said, that's your difference between being on the road and being in conference, or being at home in conference games. Just a run here or there, a break here or there. So this week, we get the joy of, we've got kind of a long week to kind of break and get reconnected and hopefully get some pitchers back healthy. On Friday, Saturday, we get to go to Fayette, and we get to play Central Methodist, and Central Methodist is sitting at number 10 in the nation right now. So we're excited because Fayette usually is a place we can go up and we can play well. It's got a great environment, and it gets our guys as fired up as much as it gets their guys fired up. So it's a good opportunity for us to step up, answer, and have a good weekend and knock somebody off. So thanks for having us.